Welcome to the International Teacher Podcast with your host, Kent the Cat Guy, Jacqueline from JP Mint Consulting, Darian the Family Guy, and Greg the Single Guy, bringing you episodes from around the world about the best-kept secret in teaching. You got it, international education. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to another episode of the International Teacher Podcast. My name is Jacqueline from JP Mint Consulting, and I am joined here today with Greg the Single Guy. Hello, Greg.
Hi, everybody. I'm eating cheese. It's been a long day. Elementary school.
He's just having some cheese. And we are joined today with Nick and Joy Owens that are joining us from somewhere in the United States. We're going to find out their stories right now. Hello, Nick and Joy.
Hey, buddy.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Where are you guys?
We are currently in, Ringgold, Georgia is where we hail from as our home now.
Georgia, I was going to say Georgia, Ontario. Georgia, USA. Somewhere near Atlanta by any chance?
Closer to Chattanooga.
I like that name, Chattanooga. So, Nick and Joy, can you tell us a little bit about your international journey? What brought you to overseas? And then we'll talk about what brought you back home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we both have like an international story, and so I'll take a little bit of
We have
time, and
time.
she can take some time.
We have
We
time,
also
yeah.
met together on an international story, so we'll get into that as well. But my international story, I think, started when I was in high school. That's when I first started traveling to countries overseas, and it kind of got me excited about it. But as a teacher, I graduated from college and I got my teaching gigs in the United States, and I was doing my thing. And in 2008 and 9, in the financial recession that we had, I found myself unemployed in the middle of December for a lot of financial reasons. They had a reduction in force. Anyways, I was left to find my own way. And I was like, what am I going to do in the middle of the year? And so I was talking with an old colleague of mine, or a former colleague of mine, and they were like, hey, have you ever thought about teaching internationally? And I was like, no, tell me more. That sounds interesting. And he got me in contact with an individual in Taiwan who was looking for some people to come over, because Taiwanese, they love to have the American accent is what they look for. And so they were looking for American teachers to come over there and do some stuff. And when I first heard about this, like, it sounds really cool. The job basically turned out to be an English immersion, and I'll go ahead and call it a summer camp because I don't know what else to really call it. But we had residential students from 5th grade from all around the Taipei metro area. And so we had them every week. They came in on Monday morning, and then we had them Monday through Friday afternoon, and then they went home. And then we did classes. We did everything in English. We were all American English speaking people. And so all of our classes were done in English. Everything was just 100% immersion English. And then we did that. I did that for the whole school year. And by the time I finished with that, I was like, I am exhausted. Because
It's
it's
a
like
long
summer
camp, yeah.
Yeah, it's like summer camp every day for a whole year instead of just summer. So yeah,
And fifth graders,
yeah,
right?
and 5th graders too. So they're it was a really good time. We met a lot of kids, built a lot of bonds and everything, and just had a really good time, but exhausting at the same time. And so I was like, well, I like it out here. I really like what I'm doing. I like the people. Like, Taiwan's a great country. And so I was like, I really like it out here. How can I stay? And I met some other friends, some other expats that were living in Taipei itself. And so I spent some time with them, and they were like, oh, we're looking for a science teacher at our school. So I was like, okay, tell me more. Got me in contact with their administrator.
He was a science
Yeah,
teacher.
I'm a science teacher.
I was gonna presume.
Yeah. And
Background in
so
science.
I got in contact with their principal, and they're like, yes, we do. We need another science teacher because the school was growing. And so I was like, well, I would love to I'd love to stay out here and keep on working in Taiwan. So they hired me on, and I worked there for 4 years as their head science teacher at their school. And the school was a very interesting school because there was a lot of foreign schools that were there, but the foreign schools that were there were only allowed by their registration. They were only allowed to have students in their school who held a foreign passport, which is pretty typical everywhere you go. We, however, happened to be under a different licensing structure, which was called a Bushiban school. And the Bushiban school is basically an English cram
Sounds
school.
like fun. Bushiban.
Yeah. But as a cram school, we kind of geared everything around the American-style curriculum. And we were able to run a full school for people who held international as well as Taiwanese passports.
I'm not sure actually how legal it was.
I don't think it was really all that legal at all.
But we weren't the ones running it.
Yeah. So anyway, so I did that for 4 years, and we had a really good time. I'd say we had about 160, 170 high school students at the school.
So small, yeah.
It was a really
Even
good
though
size.
even though it was illegal, that doesn't count as your cop story, okay? Your police story.
Yeah. But that's how I got out into Taiwan. I was there for 5 years.
So 4 years in that. So 1 year in the sort of summer camp school, and then 5 years in this as a science teacher school.
Yeah. As a science teacher, I even started up AP classes for them, or AP class for science for them. I did quite a bit of other stuff too, but that was actually one of the first places where I took, where I actually led out on trips with students, like going places. And so that was a fun time doing that internationally.
That's how we met, was at that school.
Yeah, now she can take over her story.
So I actually grew up in Zambia and went to high school in Kenya. And when I came back to the States, I got my undergrad in public relations. I remember like going to the job fair and meeting someone who was like, oh yeah, I did public relations, but now I'm a teacher. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. Well, lo and behold, 2 years later, that's exactly what I was doing. I had been bored being in the States, and it had been a year since I had left and gone anywhere. And my friend was going to work at this bilingual school in Honduras. And so I sent my resume in, and that was in May. And they're like, oh, we already have all our positions filled. But then 2 weeks before school started in August, they said, oh, we actually do need you. And I was like, okay, sure.
Ooh, where was it in Honduras?
Huh?
Yeah, because Greg was in Honduras.
Comayagua.
Comayagua. Okay. I was in San Pedro Sula for 3 years. My first couple of years teaching. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was in Comayagua. So I was there for, I had no experience teaching. And for the first semester, I was like, this is awful. These kids are loud and annoying. And then I actually learned something called classroom management. And it was amazing how better my life was, but then also how much better my students' grades were. And I had one student, I remember from having 20% to actually, by the time the year ended, he had an 85% in the class. Mostly because I learned to be a better teacher. I think he was obviously always capable. And so from there, I was like, actually, I enjoy this. I need some education though. I went and got my master's in ESL. And from there, I went to Taiwan where we met. And we worked at the school for 2 years. I was there for 2 years. And when he then got a job in Alaska, we moved to Alaska. And let me tell you, that was a major culture shock.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because we went from working with these affluent Taiwanese students to very low economic level. Even the ones that they just weren't motivated. They had zero motivation to do.
Yeah, it's too cold up there.
Yeah.
Why
A lot of the jobs
are
are trade jobs too.
Yes.
And so they're like, well, why do we just go do a trade and earn a lot of money doing it?
We just work on the oil field. You don't even need a high school degree. Why do I care about reading? Come on.
Yeah.
You should care about reading. No, it doesn't matter what you're doing.
And how long did you stay in Alaska?
8 years.
8 years.
Wow. Even still with kind of unmotivated students.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I feel like
so
my life is
he
boring
worked at
after
a
hearing
private
your
school and I worked in the
stories.
public school, and it was very interesting, but a good learning experience.
Very much so. And we had to come back. I had to come back from Taiwan to the U.S. because they didn't offer any continuing education, and my credentials were starting to lapse. And so I was like, well, I need to come back and get my credentials re-upped, which is kind of how we got back to the United States so that I could do some more of my education and get those licenses that were lapsing and all that
I'm
stuff.
sure there was something online you could have
I'm
done.
sure there was, but
Or even reciprocity with another state. You could transfer your teaching license to another state that's permanent. I've heard of a couple of states that do that, like Pennsylvania, New Jersey. They have, but the question is, do you have reciprocity? That does your state and their state talk to each other? Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of teachers that are overseas, they have to realize that when you first go out is that you need to re-up your whatever your credentials are and your driver's license and your bank account and all that stuff. I've kept it all alive for the last 25 years, but I left knowing that I would have to, I was my first year teaching. I had like 2 or 3 years of probation, and that sounds so weird.
Yeah.
I finally got out. No. But anyway, I had to re-up in 5 years, so I had to go back at some point or take courses online. And it was a real hassle, but we have to do it because you want to be certified in the States or in your home country as well. And that we're talking about the U.S., but you have to re-up every 5 years or whatever your state requires. And that was an interesting hurdle, but it's a very good point you bring up for our listeners, is that when you're overseas, when you're about to go overseas, or when you've been overseas, re-upping and making sure your credentials are always up to date, so that when you hire for your next school or you go back to your home country, you can still get a job as a teacher without having to worry about it, right?
Yeah,
So that's what brought you back.
Something that he had to actually redo was the Praxis. Is that what it's called?
yeah. So the state standardized testing, I had to redo all that.
Because he didn't have any records in the States, since it was so long ago. The state didn't have any records. So when he was trying to get an Alaskan license, he had to actually completely redo the test.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
The Praxis too. Yeah.
That's all.
Did you have to
part
study?
of that onion for overseas, right? They're peeling away that onion. That's another layer that we've never even talked about that on our show. Is that you have to keep up with all of these things. So if you let it lapse, you have to re-up, you have to retake your tests, you have to maybe take a couple courses, and
Did you have to study, Nick? I'm curious because I took a GRE for grad school, and I studied just to be safe. I didn't know,
So
what they were going to ask.
He
so
didn't
I
study. I studied though, because I had to take it. Because I actually didn't have a teaching license when I was in Taiwan. I just had my master's, and so when I came back to Alaska, I got my teaching license, and I studied for like a month math because I'm just not great at math, and he didn't study at all. I think he got a higher score than I
did. What a brain!
Yeah.
Well, actually,
so where did you go from Alaska? Because
no, go ahead.
Because you were in Alaska for 8 years, but now you're in Georgia. Did you go back overseas once you were re-credentialed, or what happened?
No, we just stayed in Alaska, and then when we had our second child, we decided to move to a warmer climate. So we moved to Arizona. So
we're from polar bear country to Arizona
to cacti.
Yeah. So it was when we had just moved to Arizona, and this was right after COVID. And we were both at that point, I was teaching online at an online university, but he was still in the classroom, and just things have changed being in the classroom,
especially post-COVID,
at least in the United States. And so it was just he was every day coming home with a headache. Every day having a headache. And I was like, okay, we need to exit this. But we really loved education. And that is where we heard our friend was selling their travel agency, and we decided to buy it because we love travel. And their mission is helping schools and organizations with their flights and their group tours. And we were like, that's perfect for us.
That's what we'd love to do.
We can still have a hand in kind of education or kind of working with schools, but without actual being in the classroom every day.
Well, this is great news because there's a lot of our listeners are, well, not a lot, but there are going to be some listeners that don't know what to do after teaching. Is there life after teaching instead of going all the way to retirement or even going to retirement? What can you do after teaching and stay in education? And that's why I was excited when we talked a little bit before about hearing what you're doing now as both teachers before, and now you've got your own business in education. I think I'd like to hear more about it. What do you think, JP?
Absolutely.
Well, I actually had a story I wanted to tell you guys, because this is kind of like why we decided on a travel agency, like first, because we're looking at other companies too.
Yeah, we're looking at anything.
Yeah, anything really.
Love stories.
Laundry mats, like you name it. So, but we were. Like, I think the thing that kind of moved us in that direction was one of our first experiences together before we were even dating. We took a group of students on a study tour. And we took them over the summertime from Taiwan. We took this group of students from Taiwan to Zambia, which is where she had lived growing up. And so we're like, oh, that's an easy place to go to because she knows it and whatever. And so we took them on a month-long like study tour through Zambia. Like we hit up, I think we started like kind of in central Zambia, in Lusaka and the area around Lusaka. We were at a farm, which is like the farm that she was on, like when
where I grew up.
Yeah, where you'd grown up. It was called Riverside Farms. So we stayed there. We learned some culture. We learned some, how they did their farming and stuff like that. And then we went and visited down at Victoria Falls. And in Victoria Falls, man, we had so much fun. They went rafting. She took some of the students rafting. Actually, all the students went. Yeah. So she took them rafting down the Zambezi River. We took I think it was like an afternoon. We went to a lion. Was it a lion refuge? Not a refuge.
It was where you could walk with lions. There
was two different places.
Lions
so the baby lions, and I have pictures of playing with the baby lion. Yeah, and then we walked cheetahs.
But then the main. So we had like two main points. So one was because students actually got credit for being on this trip. So they got a biology or a science credit because they did, what was it, like
environmental science,
something like that. So when they were learning about the farm, they were learning about the ecology and whatnot. But then we spent 10 days in a game park where every morning they would go out every morning, evening, and then they would also, with the guide, would take them and like identify poop, and they would do footprint things.
Yeah, we did like we poured the cast for footprints, and so they got to take footprints home with them of like wild animals.
You had me at poop.
Identifying poop.
and so then they got a biology credit, but then we also did creative writing. That was what I did since my major is in English. So we did a creative where we read about we read local or authors from Africa, and then also wrote creative writing about what we were seeing, and like when we visited the villages and interacted or like made the meals the way they made them for hundreds of years, using that to make their creative writing better. So
did you have a lot of stories about poop? A lot of creative writing about poop too?
Interestingly enough, we were walking. So they did both the game drives where you're on the vehicle driving. Yeah. And we saw really cool stuff there. But then we were out walking too. They did like a walking game drive. And so we were walking around and we were identifying, we were among the monkeys or whatever, the baboons that were there and stuff like that. But then like the guy, like everyone's like pretty casual. We had a guide with us the whole time with a gun.
Yeah. Keep it safe.
Like, to keep us safe. And we're like, okay, probably from the lions and all that kind of stuff. And like, I just distinctly remember, like we were walking along on this thing, and we had just got done identifying some footprints and some poop and all this kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, the guide just like got super like straight back, gun came down, and I was like, something just changed. Like I don't know what it was at the moment. And so I was like, I asked, I was like, what just happened? And the other guy, the actual guide, so he was our security escort through the park. they went with the gun. The other guy was our guide, and I asked him, like, what just happened? And he was like, there's some fresh poop down here. And I was like, okay, there's fresh poop everywhere. And the guy's like, no, this is, what was it?
I don't remember.
It was buffalo, the wild buffalo poop.
Cape buffalo.
The Cape buffalo. And
buffalo,
those are extremely, like, those are the things that make them scared. And I was like, okay, I thought you'd be scared of lions. But no, he was telling us that he got into, like, he came around a bush and startled one, and it actually charged him and gored him. Like, it got into his arm and he couldn't let go. And so he was holding on to the antlers of this thing, or the horns, or whatever they're called. He's like holding on to them, and it's like right through his arm, but he can't let go because it's going to trample him to death. And all of the guide friends that were with him, like, wanted to shoot the thing, but they couldn't shoot him because he was there. They didn't want to shoot him. And it was a really bad situation. But it was interesting, like, hearing him retell that story of that kind of stuff. And the kids were hearing this too, because we were all there together, and he was just telling, so we're like, okay, we understand why you're a little bit more, like, gun at the ready for seeing this kind of stuff. And so it was very interesting. So that's an interesting poop story, I thought.
The International Teacher Podcast, brought to you this episode by Poop in Africa.
That's right.
I love it. That's great.
When I was on, I don't know why I call it safari, but I was on a game drive, I guess. I think because the term game sounds like I was hunting, but I wasn't. I was just hunting with my camera. But when I was in Tanzania, and with my guide, who was also the driver, and I would give him sort of forewarning, like, I'm going to need to pee soon, and he'd be like, okay, just watch for herbivores. I'm like, okay, why am I looking for herbivores? And he goes, because where there's herbivores, there's no carnivores. And I thought, ooh, that's good. Okay. Hey, stop. There's an herbivore here. It was one of the impala. And so I'd be peeing, watching the impala's tail to see if it flickered or something, because then that could mean that, there was something nearby. But that's what you do. You sort of adapt to your environment and figure out what you're looking for, the signs you're looking for.
Yeah. So that trip, I think, like, we wanted to do another one, and we tried doing another one, but we weren't able to.
Well, I organized another one, but for the Spanish teacher. So she took the kids to Peru, and they did a month-long immersion in Peru.
From Taiwan to Peru. Holy moly.
Yeah.
Long trip.
So we had, we really enjoyed taking our students and then just seeing how they're learning. It was hands-on. It was real life. And so that was one of
it's so outside of their culture, like that, what, you can't help not learn something. Like, you're in 24/7 learning mode, like trying to compute, like, what am I seeing here? What is going on? And that's just fun to see. I enjoyed that.
So that was like,
and all those kids are still remembering those trips, I'm sure. I mean, it's hands down a trip of a lifetime for them.
Yeah. We actually, you have a statistic that you wrote down.
Oh, yeah. I have some statistics.
Cool. It's our statistic part of the show.
Yes. Brought to you by poop. No. Let's see here. But, yeah. So the Travel Federation, the WISE Travel Federation, said that traveling improves their grades by 59%, like, of students. Like, that's a pretty significant increase there. Another one that they had was that, let's see here, graduation rate was 95% for students who had gone on these types of trips, like just these immersion, like you go to another country.
Of course, I wonder a little bit about if you're going to go on a trip, you probably come from a higher socioeconomic level.
Very possible.
But I really like the one they said that 80% who go on trips have a higher motivation and engagement with the curriculum that they are learning.
Because you're giving them
context.
context.
On the trip, and then when they come home and they're actually, or when they come back to school and they're working with that teacher, they just have a higher engagement with that teacher.
Which is very easy to see. It's very, very easy to see when the kids come back and they're talking to all their friends and what they've learned. And then you hear these stories come out later, like in writing class or whatever, they'll write, but they'll use some of these references that they learned about. So you see them come out in these very unique ways and how they processed them.
All right, let's take a moment for a little commercial about how to get in touch with us. You can, of course, find all four of us at the itpexpat.com. That's www.itpexpat.com.
Or you could also find us at email at internationalteacherpodcast@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
Or if you're into Facebook, we have a new Facebook group at www.facebook.com/groups/ITPexpat, where you can find all kinds of inside information about ITP Expat.
You can also find us on Instagram at ITPXpats. That's with an S. ITPXpats is our handle.
All right, and thank you, listeners. We have over 100 countries represented by our listeners, and though we're not monetized, we are here for you, and we would like to thank all of you for listening. So let's get back to the show.
So now, how do you go about helping schools and teachers make their own trips now that this is your business?
So that's what really drove us into the business.
So we're an all-inclusive. We do an all-inclusive tour. So one thing we realized was, so they have the big tour companies like World Strides or EF Tours. But if you're a teacher and you're wanting to take your kids to Italy, to Zambia, to Peru, you don't just want a cookie cutter experience. You want something that is really meaningful and that you can actually have some control over. So we do a custom tour for what you're wanting to do, but we also know that for parents, they don't want to pay $2,000 and then have to pay another for
all the
food,
meals,
and then another for the tips, and then another for plane tickets. So we do an all-inclusive quote that covers the plane tickets, that covers food, that covers everything, so that you see the whole package price. The teacher doesn't have to think about anything other than being like, yes, I want this, or no, I don't want that. And, they turn out to be this rock star teacher who has this amazing trip that all their students talk about for years and years to come.
And do you do hotels and homestays, or strictly hotels, like shared hotel rooms?
So we do both. So I was going to say for the Peru trip, the students did a week in a homestay where the meals were included in that homestay, and they were able to really practice their Spanish. So it really depends on like the tour that you're doing. So obviously with a DC tour, the DC is just going to be in a hotel, not necessarily homestay. But if you're wanting to have that cultural experience in Peru, in Zambia, something like that, then a homestay probably would be a part of it.
That's
and they don't have to be a month long either.
Yeah. You don't have to do a month-long trip like we did.
Yeah.
You could do a trip over spring break. If you're
like, 6 months.
Yeah.
No.
Wow.
But we also know there's a lot of people listening on here that are international teachers too. And I mean, I would even encourage it, like, bring your students from wherever you are to the United States as a cultural tour. And like that works too. There's a lot of stuff to see in the States, but I mean, depending on where they're coming from would change their interest.
Yeah.
But
I would say just being abroad doesn't mean you shouldn't do a trip. Obviously, we did our trips when we were in Taiwan. And there was still because we're at an international school, our students still wanted to have those experiences, and their parents did find it very valuable.
Yeah.
Well, I took a group of 13 kids to Paris and to Rennes, which is in Brittany, the northwest region of France. And we did a homestay, but it was completely organized by EF Tours because I couldn't find anything else. I wanted to do the tour myself, but I really needed that homestay component so that they would learn the culture, they would learn the language, they'd wake up in French, they'd go to sleep in French. Like I needed those 5 days to sort of sell the other 5 days of touring and, touristy stuff to the parents. But what was amazing was they came back, as you say, they came back gushing about the trip. All the other kids that had been sort of on the fence thinking about coming, they were all regretting that they didn't come. And to this day, those kids have that remembrance, that memory of speaking French in the country where it was born. And I think it's so enriching for them.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead, Greg. You got your hand raised.
Thank you for calling on me. Yes, I always like to raise my hand. No, I thought it would be a good point during about halfway through or so, or a little bit more, to have you tell us how we get in touch with you and the name of your company, and we'll include stuff in the show notes, of course. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to just call it your company. I'd like to start naming it as we talk more about it, because it sounds very specialized, it sounds tailored, and it's very interesting for teachers to reach out to you. So tell us a little. Start with the name of the company and work your way through some.
Thanks for bringing that up. Like, how bad on us to not put that out in the very beginning.
We have this company.
I know.
It's called
Brought to you by
Butler
Poop.
Travel. Butler Travel, and you can go to butlertravel.com to find out about us, or you can send us an email at joy@butlertravel, nick@butlertravel.com.
Nicholas
at butlertravel.com.
Ah, okay.
But
we'll put all those in the show notes, but you have a website that they can go and sort of peruse past trips to get ideas, and then they can contact you for more of a tailored, as you say, not that cookie cutter where every trip is the same.
Yeah. So we actually, and again, we can share this at the end as well, but we have a Rockstar Leader blueprint. So a guide on how to plan a trip.
Like the steps you need.
The steps that you need. So if you're like, I'd really love to plan a trip, I really don't know, like any of the steps, like what do I need to do? We have that guide available. It's at butlertravel.com/plan, which again, we'll share with you so you can put it in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so they would go through those steps and then contact you with
you can
their
contact
ideas
us directly as well. Like this is just, it's just steps for someone as a leader to think about, and you don't even have to use us. You could just use these steps to plan your trip. But if you're like, no, I have an idea, I want you to take care of it. Yeah, just send us an email or just go to Butler Travel and hit the book now button and put in the information, and we can take care of you.
Yeah, one thing with other trips that we've done, we don't have like a collection of trips. We have a few that we've done or that we've put together, but we would encourage anybody who has an idea that we can work with, if they're interested in doing something, bring that idea, and then we'll work around and figure out what the best is. Then we can start putting those on the website as past trips. The one we have right now that's currently going out is a Washington, D.C. study tour.
Well, I would say I like to keep our website simple. So I'm a kind of like minimalist. I like it. So he was like, let's put all our trips on there. I'm like, no.
Or at least feature trips.
Let's just like say we do these trips.
You just want a few examples maybe to entice people to think outside the box and to realize that you do cater to their needs, I would imagine.
Yeah. So I would say one interesting trip that we're doing this spring for a school is their senior class trip, and they're going on a cruise. They reached out to us to actually go to Alaska and do a trip in Alaska, and we were like, I'm sorry, do you know what it's like in March in Alaska?
They don't do cruises yet.
They don't do cruises. Yeah. So you could do a Arctic tour, but then you have to be in the Arctic. But then again, in March, the weather's not really great in Alaska. So we convinced them to do the Caribbean instead of Alaska, even though I feel like Alaska would have been a way cooler trip. Another tour we have going on is a DC tour, where it's very specific to what they're wanting to see in DC. And then we've also organized a tour in Tanzania, in the Serengeti as well.
We also have a few like it just tucked away in the back burner. One of them was a Peru, Ecuador.
Oh yeah,
Galapagos Islands tour, much more on the science side because I'm a science teacher, so kind of do that. But yeah, go to the Galapagos. But go to Galapagos. That one has like a homestay component to it up in the highlands in Ecuador. Peru, you get to see Machu Picchu, you get to see Cuzco, stuff like that.
I thought the homestay was actually like near Lake Titicaca in Peru.
Maybe, but there's a homestay component somewhere in there. I don't remember where it was. But there's also on that one I put together, because I want to make the tours a little bit more
having a humanitarian
or service, volunteer,
aspect.
something like that.
Okay.
And so that one, they have several
oriented
volunteer organizations, in the Galapagos. And so I was going to have the students go in there. They would help do some habitat restoration, or,
so all science-based, but still a service type of learning.
Yeah. So
do you go on these trips yourselves as one of the guides?
We can, but usually it's cheaper for the school to just use the local guides that are there.
That you have
something
contacts
like
connections
that.
for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I got some connections for you. There's I want to shout out to Kiboko Safari in Tanzania. There's wonderful things in Cambodia to do, especially humanitarian stuff. In Honduras, there's a lot of outreach going on.
Yeah.
Of course, that country is full of enough already, but as far as help, right? But I like this. I like it when you go out with students and you build a sustaining, help them sustain themselves, right?
Yeah.
And there's a place in Cambodia, outside of Phnom Penh. There's a group called Tabitha, and what we did was we worked as teachers, not necessarily with students, but students would do it too. And we would go out and build homes, and the families were encouraged. They wouldn't be part of it until the family saved a certain amount of money in a bank, because a lot of them don't trust banks. So they would encourage the families to save a little bit of money, like $200. And as soon as they got $200, then they could be in the group to go and have somebody build a home for them. And it was fascinating. So I love the idea of going all over the world. And I wish you guys could go too. I mean, it seems like, wow, you want to go too, but it's not in the cards usually. You're planning it for everybody. So you must have a lot of connections. Right?
Yeah, we do. And so we really we try to partner with local vendors as well, and not just like big tour,
conglomerates.
Right. Because that's how we're able to do a more of a custom type experience.
It's more exciting that way too. You don't want cookie cutter. You want to definitely reach out, give back to the community, and it's cheaper. Yeah.
Well, and I've done a few tours in my lifetime where, I just feel more comfortable if I'm going to go to that country, to have a planned tour, especially if I'm traveling with someone. So when I went to Egypt, I had a local guide, but it's so much richer for that expertise than when I'm reading online, or if I'm reading a book and trying to figure out, what am I looking at? I will say that there are definitely advantages to working with those local experts who are historians in their own right, who, have studied this for years, to be able to then disseminate down to the essence of what you need to know when you're visiting these places.
Yeah. So we have a local vendor in Egypt, and they have what they call an Egyptologist. So, so you have a guide who is very knowledgeable on everything you're seeing and the history of the different sites. I'm like, why wouldn't you want that? Why would you just want to go to the pyramids and the Sphinx and all these things without that history that you can, without having that person who has all that knowledge?
And we like to think of it mostly from
experts
the teacher
make it so much more enriching. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And
go ahead, Nick. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, from the teacher perspective too, you don't want it to be superficial. You want it to be something that they can internalize. And maybe it's not going to be, we're going to cover all of Egypt. No, we're going to do a little bit, but we're going to do it really, really well. And then hopefully you'll come back and you'll learn more. But we don't want that superficial. We want it to go much more in depth and to make it more meaningful. And that's kind of through the service-based aspect and through the local tour guides and stuff like that. So make it a little more rich.
If you were to pick one of your tricky situations, you don't have to be specific, but can you tell us a little bit about all the different moving parts of one of the trips that sort of drove you crazy? You have to set up all these things for the school once they make out their plan. Was there a certain trip that sort of, I don't know, you remember because of that?
Well, so, something happened like 5 years ago, in February, COVID. We had some,
Oh, that, yeah.
so, we were still in Alaska, and this was actually before we bought the company, but the local school had used Butler Travel to go to Peru. And
The local school that I was
that he was working at. They were in Peru one day, and then obviously everything changed, and they had one day to get out of Peru
before they closed the borders down.
Closed the borders in Peru.
Otherwise, it might have been a
imagine-
6-month stay.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So you can imagine like the panic that probably all the parents were having. But Butler Travel was able to get them on the last flight out. They were like the last seats. They as soon as they heard that the country was shut down, they found the flights. They changed the tickets even before like the leaders were like, "Hey, what are we going to do?" They're like, "No, we already
We're on it.
We already figured it out. We got you on the last flight out. Just get to the airport.
Wow.
Just get out." So that is when we heard that story, and it was kind of, we were like, wow, oh wait, that was actually the school he was working at.
Wow.
Yeah, I wasn't on the trip, but
he wasn't on the trip. No, our friend was.
Yeah.
His coworker was. So that was a pretty an intense logistical thing that Butler Travel had to do. And there's been not the same level, but where flights have been canceled and you have to completely rework the flights and trying to get 20 to 30 people to their destination when one flight has been canceled
or back
can be a difficult thing. So I would say that's probably the most challenging part that we have to think about.
I would say the logistics, like the flight logistics.
The flight logistics, yeah.
And then making sure that even on ground, like we don't do a lot of ground transportation. It just depends on the size of the group.
Well, it depends on if we're doing an all-inclusive tour or if they just wanted flights.
Yeah, it depends on what their needs are. But I would say like just that logistics is like it's a puzzle piece, and so you got to be putting, does this fit over here? You're just mixing and matching until you get the right fit with what you're doing, or the direction of the trip. It can change, like depending on how things are working out. It might reverse the trip from how you had originally thought of it, or something like that, or just different little things.
So I'm hearing that a big key would be staying flexible as you guys, but also as the teacher, being the planner of the trip and sort of helping with some of the key components they want. It might be remaining flexible and knowing that maybe you're not going to get everything on your wish list.
Right. Because sometimes it's going to be impossible. Like with some things that come up, and I don't have an example, but I could just imagine at some point in time, you might have a wish list that's a mile long, but
but you're only going for a week.
Yeah. So you're going to have to trim out what you want.
I have a funny story to share that just made me think.
Awesome.
I had someone. This was not for a school though. It was just for a church that they wanted to do this Reformation tour in Europe. And he gave me a list of all the places they wanted to stop that he had gotten from ChatGPT. And after I was looking through them, I was like, well, did you know that some of these locations are actually in the United States? They're
Oops.
And some of these don't actually exist.
Oh,
yeah, because we're like looking through, like on the tour, like, okay, how are we going
I'd
to go?
like to see Atlantis. I would like to see
Paris, Texas,
and then
Wakanda.
He had a very impossible budget of doing a 16-day trip for less than $2,000. Like $2,000 was his max that he wanted to
per person.
Oh
my gosh,
I was like that. So that's like something don't just as a teacher, like don't just like look at ChatGPT to give you an ideas of what you want to see, but then also realize that your budget, if you're wanting to have a really great tour for your students, you don't want to go rock bottom. You don't want to just be like, oh, we'll stay in 2-star hotels, because your parents aren't going to feel safe about that. And your students are probably, I mean, they might not care, but if they come home with bed bugs, then everybody's going to care.
Yeah.
Ooh.
What I enjoy
So we
about
have very
this,
high, bar of like places that will book and stay for
Hygiene
tourists.
standards.
Yeah.
Hygiene standards.
Hygiene standards.
Yeah.
And so it does make the price maybe a little bit higher than you could do, but I think it's worth it in the end. You have another question, Greg?
I'm sorry,
I see you raising your
interrupted
hand.
before. Yes, I know I'm raising my hand again. No, I have so many things to ask, but I guess a good reassurance would be that if I am a teacher and I want to book a trip with my students for any amount of time in another place, it could be even within my own country, but I think what would be reassuring is if they go through Butler Travel, that you are both former teachers, so you know that there has to be educational time, there has to be downtime for the kids, because you can't plan everything for them. You need to have downtime and free time, and in a nice environment where they are safe. So I think that all falls on a lot on you to guide the teachers through that, or the church, or the individuals going on your trips. And I think that's reassuring to know that you're both teachers with that kind of mindset. I hate the word mindset, but you have the experience both of going on trips with students, so you know what it's like to be in charge of a group that needs to have downtime and tech time
and there's
quiet
a fine balance between downtime, too much downtime, because then they start to get into mischief, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say they get trouble.
Well, they have to have it, right? You have that balance. You have to have the education stuff in there. And you're right. Go write something.
Yeah.
Quietly.
We had someone reach out who was wanting to set up a tour from taking students from Taiwan to the United States and doing an entire tour of the United States. It was very interesting.
Oh, wow.
Well, they wanted the history.
Sorry, the history.
In 5 days.
Yeah. Well, they were doing, it was 25 days or something like that they wanted to do. It was a long time.
But it was like he did not want any downtime. And I was like, man, these poor students, they're like going to be so tired. Like
they're going to hate the United States when they're done.
When are you giving them time to like journal? I mean,
process.
You have to have something.
And they process. Yeah.
Process. So like, it was from morning to evening. And we really were like, I think you need to cut some of these things out to allow the students to have that downtime, especially because it's not just a week trip. Like, okay, for a week trip, you can push students if necessary. But for a whole 25 days.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to work.
It's like, and the principal that he took it to also didn't like the plan either.
Yeah,
so.
She also wanted more downtime. So downtime is really important.
So in all your travels, do you have a police story that you can share with us?
Police story? I've got one. Do you got one?
Do I want to share mine?
It has to be not to get you in trouble. It has to be something fun, something interesting. It could be police, or it could be even crossing borders, right?
Yeah. So I'll go first. You can think of yours.
No, I know what my police story
is. Okay. Would you like to go first? Mine's probably not as interesting as hers.
Probably not.
Go ahead, Nick.
So when I was in Taiwan, we drove around on scooters everywhere. That's just the culture. So all of us, I think, myself and a friend of mine, we first got scooters, and then everybody kind of followed along. Like, we all need scooters. And they're like, yes, we do. So we were like a little scooter gang going around. But I distinctly remember one evening, driving back on a scooter, and I had a friend behind me because, you always ride doubles. And so I had a friend behind me, and we're at the turn signal. And so regular turn signal, just like you would in the United States and everything. And so the turn signal goes, and we went. And there was a police officer right there in the corner. And we're like, he like put on his lights and came and stopped me. And of course he's on his scooter too. So it's like a little scooter chase. But he stops me, and I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't know what's going on. And he starts to talk to us. He's like one of the local police, not like basically not the same as highway patrol. He was just like the local precinct police officer. And so he starts talking to us. He's like rambling off in Chinese. My friend and I are both like, we flip up our visor and he notices that we're both like white, like American white people. And he's like, like this panic in his face, like he knew no English or not enough English. He's like, okay, go. I go, okay.
And you don't know what you did wrong?
Well, I think he thought that we ran the turn signal.
Oh,
but it was like right where it was turning orange, and I think he was just trying to be a little extra vigilant. But the funny thing is, I think it was like a week later, I was driving along by myself. I did an illegal U-turn, and I get caught by a police officer again. But this was like one of the county or the higher level police officers. He stops and he starts talking to me in Chinese, and I'm like, I don't know, I don't understand what you're saying. And so he gets smart, and he calls up his precinct and gets somebody who can speak English and still gives me a ticket. And I'm like, man,
Hey, there
it
you
didn't
go.
work. Like, that was my police story.
And Joy?
Well, so I mean, I also have gotten a speeding ticket in foreign countries, but my police story is actually from the United States. I just moved back here to go to college, and I and my then boyfriend were making out in a kind of abandoned warehouse. And the police came, they saw our cars. I guess they were just driving by and saw our car parked in front of it and caught us and put us in the back seat of their car, and then called the owner of the property we were on. And the owner was just like, just let them go. It's fine.
Oh my gosh.
Like that would never happen in Zambia where you grew up. That would never happen
Right,
there.
no.
You get pulled over for an abandoned, making out in an abandoned, almost like warehouse. And that happens in the States.
Yeah. But so that's, I've gotten plenty of tickets.
All right,
driving.
question number 2, and you could both think about this. What are 3 things that you take with you when you travel and go to live in a new country? You've both been living in different countries before. Name 3 things.
An adapter plug.
Yeah, Jeopardy music.
You never know what you're going to get there.
Yeah.
For sure.
I always brought my shampoo because I was like, I don't know if they'll sell the same brand that I like. So shampoo is something that I always was like, okay, bring this. And then
It used to be that I would bring like, what is it, Froders or Foders or whatever, the travel books. Lonely
like off the
Planet.
beaten track. Yeah.
Yeah, so, something like that. I always used to carry a book like that, but now it's just on my phone. So I guess my phone I would take.
I also would bring my favorite seasonings that I didn't know, like that might not be found as easily wherever I was going. Like obviously not salt, because salt, you can buy salt everywhere, but like some of the mixes.
Man,
Great
my third thing.
answers.
What would I do?
Very cool.
Yeah, Nick.
I know. The third thing. What would I take? Like if I had to take anything, I mean, there's obviously the passports and documentation and stuff, but I don't know.
Something that reminds you
That's
of
okay.
home.
You don't have to be put on the spot. That's okay. 2 is fine. We're good
Yeah.
with that.
But my other thing is, I try to bring something.
An extra pair of underwear?
Nick, please take extra underwear with you when
Yeah,
you go.
you know.
Okay? This originally started back when we started the show, and we were talking about 3 things that would make you feel comfortable at home when you move to a new country, and things that you'd bring with you or things that you need. And we've sort of morphed a little bit, right? Yeah.
I always
You
bring
see
my
those-
pillow.
There you go. See? Something
I
that makes
used
you
to be
feel
a pillow
comfortable.
traveler too. Yeah.
Now she takes rugs. Look behind JP.
I take rugs instead.
Yeah. Okay, that's great.
Well, this
All
has
right.
been a very enlightening. I think a lot of teachers who have been kind of on the fence about how do they go about doing this will have gotten a lot of information from this episode, they'll go to your website, butlertravel.com, and check out that guide and check out, it feels like, I think for you guys, if I'm not speaking out of turn, you'd be happy to just have them contact you and sort of explore the idea of a trip, correct?
Absolutely.
Like, even if they're not sure, they just want to sort of feel it out and see if it's doable. I get the feeling that you guys would be really happy to help them work that out.
Yeah, for sure. We would love to talk to anybody who is interested in trips at all, or if you're just wanting to pick our brains on what it's like to exit the teaching world, we would love to talk to you, that as well.
Hey.
But definitely, if you're interested in trips, send us an email, Nicholas at Butler Travel or Joy at Butler Travel. And then if you want to check out that guide, it's again, butlertravel.com/plan.
Perfect. Well, I'm pointing to you because I did the intro. You're the outro guy.
Like, who are you pointing to?
Well, it's not a scripted show at all.
Apparently not
scripted at all. We do this just cold, and it's more exciting that way because it's more of a conversation, right?
Yeah.
And usually at the end, in fact, why don't we do this? Why don't we have some time for final thoughts for both of you to tell us a little bit more about your company, last minute thoughts, or something else you'd like to share, and then we'll hear from JP and we'll call it quits after that. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, to summarize everything, we're just excited to help people plan and to get their kids, their students, regardless of where they originate from, to get their students exploring other cultures. I think it's so valuable in so many different ways that, just helping that be facilitated, I think, is something that I enjoy a lot. So
we enjoy still having our toes or fingers a little bit into the educational world through doing these tours.
Keeps us grounded.
JP?
Yeah, I can totally relate to wanting to keep your toe dipped in the international world and live vicariously through these trips. And I want to thank you for coming on the show and telling us about the possibility of hiring you and getting these customized trips. I think it's very exciting. And I wish I had someone like you back when I was planning my French trip, because I would have definitely gone with a more boutique style than a cookie cutter. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, it was our pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Well,
it's been a big pleasure.
As we come to a close, then, I'd like to invite everybody that's a listener and all of your friends and anybody interested in traveling to set up your own boutique travel experience, whether it's with a church or with a school, right? You need to just go to butlertravel.com, and don't email Nick Owens. You need to email Nick.
Nicholas.
Yes. No, but in all seriousness, it's great. You're both teachers, former teachers. There's a lot of hope for people that are in the teaching field that want to do something afterwards and keeping their foot into it. It's not easy to do a travel industry. You both have a lot of experience, both growing up and going and teaching overseas. So I totally thank you for being on our show. And just remember, it's all about poop, brought to you by Poop. And reach out to the Owens, because
the
what they're doing, right?
I didn't even pick that up, but yeah, they're not the Butlers; they're the Owens at Butler.
Yes, because they bought the Butlers. Remember,
yes,
they bought the Butlers.
Right.
Oh wow,
that's right.
But hey, the one point I was going to bring up, though, before we say goodbye, is that you brought up some very good stats about students that go on trips. Can you repeat that for us? You had those stats in front of you.
Yeah, I'll pull this back up. Yeah, so 59% higher grades of the people that they polled, 95% graduation rate among students who had gone on at least one trip,
and then
86% higher intellectual curiosity.
No, the last one, the 80%.
Yeah, 80%
I love
higher
that one, especially
motivation
because
and engagement.
it just contextualizes the
importance of going on a
content.
trip with kids It just maximizes their education, gives them experience. It's great for the teachers' experience. You have lots of stories about poop. And there's so many places in this world to go that, Nick, you and Joy are planning for lots of different people. So I'm excited to hear more about your trips later on. I want to hear some more later. You can come back on our show. So I'll bring us to an end and say thank you to Nick and Joy from Butler Travels for joining us today. Thank you very much.
Yay!
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And you can find them. Yep, you can find them at butlertravel.com, I believe. And JP Mint, you can reach out to JP. She helps people with searching for new jobs. She's a headhunter, so to speak, helps you with your future. And what I noticed, one thing about both of you, your companies, is that you really do follow through during the trips and during the journey that you're working with people on. Both of your companies really worry about how it's going. It's not like we planned it, you were done, and you're off on your own, right?
Bye.
Yeah. And I am Greg, the single guy, and you can find my books at Amazon, of course. But yeah, that's our show.
Finding the right fit and the best kept secret in international education. The best kept secret in international teaching. The best kept secret in
He's so good at these endings. But thank you very much for the show. You guys stay on for a little bit, and we
Thanks, everybody.
Yes, we will sign off now until next episode. So